around, and no one's around. Nobody got nobody got I know what you like. I know what you like. I see it in your eyes. But you today disguise. No go slug or dog. Are you a catfish? The story done day long. If I don't pick your call, it's not my fault. Oh, oh, oh. By now, we supposed. How you could they tease me up till now? Hey, up till now. Make I tie your body upside down. Make I never hear this sound. It's me and you, no one's around. And no one's around. Nobody got nobody got
Follow us on all our social media platforms on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Mainland 98.3 FM, on Twitter at Mainland FM. We are the sound of Lagos.
Good morning to you, Lagos, Nigeria, and many thanks for joining us on this beautiful day. It's the 2nd of May, 2023. The official countdown has begun. Well, it started yesterday, but we were all basking in the euphoria of Workers' Day, a day to celebrate workers for all of their effort in not just improving the economy, but also ensuring that, we continue to improve as a nation when it comes to our financial situation. And, of course, political stakeholders and relevant individuals took that opportunity to address workers, encourage them, and even some, especially President-elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has made hefty promises about how he intends to improve the life of workers. Again, should I say happy belated Workers' Day to everybody, and welcome back to work. I know that activities have resumed today, and we hope that the break has given you an opportunity to, refresh yourself and be prepared for what is to come the rest of the week. And when I said official countdown have started, I'm talking about the transition of power from the current administration to the administration of the now president-elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Good morning to you and welcome to Radio once again. My name is Sage Babalola. We'll be talking this morning. We'll be talking together. We'll be having conversations. I would first present you with the stories that have been reported on the front pages of the papers, and then we will go on ahead to open the phone lines and give you an opportunity to speak. I do have Fuad Said joining me via the phone lines. This is trends in the papers. Just like I said before, I will be reading to you these reports, and myself and Fuad will initially have conversations about them before we get your view. Good morning to you, Fuad. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Sage. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you so much. All right, Fuad, so should I say happy belated Workers' Day to you? It was an amazing day yesterday. I did see, a lot of appreciation for workers, and we hope that aside from celebrating them, they create a better working environment for the workers. But that's out of the way. For trends in the papers today, we have Vanguard, we have The Nation, we have here Guardian, and finally the Punch newspaper. So we're going to open today's conversation from a Punch newspaper, but let's go on a quick 1 minute break. We'll be right back and we'll continue the conversation. Don't go anywhere. This is Mainland 98.3 FM. Welcome back and apologies for the interruption. We're back now. So let's check the Vanguard newspaper. Like I said before, we do have the top story here. May Day halts last minute looting. Labour urges Buhari. May Day halts last minute looting. Labour urges Buhari. There are riders to the story. Indicts outgoing governors, ministers and others. Insist on resisting further fuel price hike via subsidy. Removal. Tinubu promises salary increase. Yes, says I'll give you a living wage. NBA asks Tinubu others to protect entrepreneurs, grow middle class. Nigerian workers deserve better treatment, can president. Resist anti-democratic forces, PDP tells workers. And the final rider to that story, we will continue to struggle to reclaim stolen mandate, Labour Party assures workers. Fuad, do we have you back on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Thank you so much for standing by. All right. So I don't know if you heard the headline, but I'll take it again. May Day halt last minute looting. Labour urges Buhari. That is the headline, and I've read the riders to that particular story. So now let's get into the main story. And Lagos Organized Labour yesterday raised an alarm over what it described as last-minute looting of the treasury by the outgoing governors, ministers and other political office holders, and called on President Muhammadu Buhari to do everything possible to stop them. They referenced certain issues. In the May Day speech that was titled Workers' Rights and Socio-Economic Justice, which was jointly read by the NLC President Joe Ajero and the President of the TUC, Festus Osifo, they called for the investigation of the 12 billion naira spent by the Aviation Ministry to buy 10 fire trucks. Among other demands, NLC and TUC have asked for the privatization of the electricity sector. They want it to be reviewed in favor of Nigerians. They've also spoken about the debt trap, so they describe it, that we're currently in. So to prevent us from reading the entire script, we could just summarize it. So Labour, of course, they've been very proactive over the last couple of months, and now they're, should I say, trying to get certain issues to the front burner. First things first, they have referenced Hadi Sirika's recent purchase, which is 12 fire trucks, which he claimed to have bought for 12 billion naira. It would seem the Labour Union, they're not necessarily in agreement that that was the amount of money should I say, the decision to spend that amount of money on fire trucks. They're asking for the credibility of that story. Did you really spend 12 billion in purchasing the fire trucks? They've also spoken about privatization of electricity, which we say though Discos and Gencos are privatized, but the government is still heavily involved in the transmission companies. And also they've said that we should continue to talk about our rising debt profiles. These are the three, should I say, concerns of the NLC and NUC at this time. Fuad, what are your thoughts?
Well, I don't think the outgoing government can resolve any other issue, that's been presented by the Labour Union. The issue of the energy sector, the power sector, I think should go well beyond the outgoing government. If they've not been able to resolve any issue in 8 years, I don't think they'll be able to do that in the next 30 days. But on the issue of last-minute looting, we've been talking about the Minister of Aviation in recent times. He's making the news for all the wrong reasons, if you remember. I think.
Yes.
He was recently involved with, the Labour Union crisis as far as the aviation sector is concerned, the planned demolition of some offices and all of that.
Yes.
And now here you are again, the aviation minister is making the news again. He has bought, allegedly, let's because again, this is a statement from the Labour Union. We have not heard from him.
Yeah.
He has bought 12 trucks for 12 billion naira. So are we saying each of the trucks cost 1 billion naira?
Nah, it might be customized.
And even if it's customized, is it hybrid? What kind of fire truck is that? I agree with the Labour Union that President Muhammadu
Fuad, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's actually 10 trucks. It's 10 trucks for 12 billion.
So each one will cost more than 1 billion naira.
Yes.
That's what it means.
Yes.
So what kind of fire truck is that?
I say it's customized.
I say even if it's customized, is it hybrid? Is it going to be flying? Is that truck going to be flying? So if anything happens, it's going to fly from wherever it is to go and put out the fire or something. Or what kind of fire? The reality is, I kept talking about the aviation minister, why he's so much involved in so many things this last minute. That one would think that he'll be more involved with how to, transmit power peacefully without any glitches. But here you are, in so much involved. You know, he's still insisting that Nigeria Air will fly.
Yes.
Despite a court judgment saying the status quo should be maintained.
Mm-hmm.
And that is just one case out of several that has not been reported. And this is what happens, you know, when you have, you know, a last-minute rush to do so many things at the same time. You are going to find, you know, corrupt tendencies in all of these actions. So again, I agree with the Labour Union, you know, who are telling the president to ensure that we don't have a last-minute loot of the treasury, as it is. We've had a lot of lootings anyway because there have been so many corruption cases that the EFCC is still battling with. But at least in the minimum, the government should focus on how to, you know, hand over power to the next administration. So issues of renewing, you know, coming up with new contracts, you know, paying contractors. Okay, we are employing contractors, and so we quickly need to pay contractors, and all of those things should stop now. It should be more about, look, anything that we have not done up till now should remain the way it is until the new government takes over,
right,
and begin to review those things. So anything that has not been done in terms of payment of contractors, issuing of contracts, any other thing that has not been done up till now, I would expect that it should be left for the new government to come and handle. Not that you begin to make payments and begin to make funny purchases. How do you buy 10 fire trucks for 12 billion? How? Where?
I guess only Hadi Sirika can answer that question, the Minister for Aviation. But if you would like to read further on that story and check out all the riders one after the other, you can pick a copy of the Vanguard newspaper and check page 5. Let's move on now. We do have another headline here. Cancer scare, why we banned Indomie noodles, a statement from NAFDAC. They commence sampling today. The National Agency for Food, Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, said it will commend random sampling of Indomie noodles, including the seasoning from the product's facilities. Announcing this, the Director General of the agency, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, explained that there's a compound of interest, which is ethylene oxide, that is in the food. And because of that, there's been a rapid callback of all of the Indomie noodles in distribution. She said that, I'm quoting Adeyeye right now, Indomie noodles have been banned from being imported into the country for many years. It is one of the foods on the government prohibition list. If it is not allowed in Nigeria and therefore not registered by NAFDAC. What we're doing is extra caution to ensure that the product is not smuggled in, and if so, our post-marketing surveillance will detect it. We also want to be sure that the spices used for the Indomie and other noodles in Nigeria are tested. Fuad, I'm sure that you've heard about this. Yesterday, the news came out that Indomie noodles will be banned because there's some substance there, ethylene oxide, which the World Health Organization has said that it has been linked to cancer. And it surprised me to know that Indomie noodles, the brand, was actually banned, because we're being told here by the director of NAFDAC that it's been banned for many years. But regardless, there's still a proliferation of the products in the market since I can remember. What do you have to say about this, Fuad?
This particular story, when I saw it yesterday, got me completely confused.
Yes.
And I'll tell you why I'm completely confused, and I expect the NAFDAC officials, because again, I'm thinking maybe the reporting is the problem. They need to really give better explanations on this issue of Indomie noodles. If I'm funny enough, I just bought a pack yesterday for my kids. I don't know what to do with it now.
It's illegal. It's illegal. Is it that it has been banned for many years? No, that's the part that shocks me.
Wait, because I know that they have a factory here. So we need to be clear. Are they importing Indomie noodles? Or one would think that they are producing it here in Nigeria.
Yes, that was my initial thought.
So we need to, NAFDAC needs to come clear. Is there a brand of Indomie noodles that is imported, or the one that is locally produced here? If you understand what I'm trying to say.
We don't have that information. They didn't give us that information.
So the information is not complete. Because if NAFDAC is saying that they've banned Indomie noodles for years, and it's still widely sold in the market, it's everywhere. Indomie is not anything secret. It's distributed everywhere. They have it's available in almost every shop in Nigeria. So we need to understand whether there is a particular brand of Indomie noodles that is imported. Because the understanding I have is that it is locally produced here in Nigeria. At the initial stage, it used to be imported. But I know that they have a factory where it is locally produced, unless I'm wrong. So now that needs to give us a complete information on the situation of Indomie noodles.
So we have to know if it's the one being produced here or the one being imported.
all the Indomie that we have been eating have always been imported, which I doubt. Because the way the statement was presented, it's so confusing. For those of us that have to believe that Indomie is produced here in Nigeria by that company, even though it's a global brand. So, but we need to know which one exactly has been banned. Or are we supposed to stay away from any form of Indomie? Or is there a way to identify the imported one from the local one? So that story is incomplete. It needs to be properly presented for us to have a complete understanding of what the issue is now. Because it's about public safety and it has to be taken seriously.
Right. Well, hopefully we get more information from NAFDAC, because this is everything they've given. Though they say that they've started testing Indomie, they've started testing the seasoning, they've commenced sampling today, as a matter of fact. But I think that you're right, because a lack of information or a breakdown of information gives room for insinuations, and people don't know what is true. And you know how we are in this part of the country. Perception is reality. If we don't get answers, we start to form answers by ourselves. So it is necessary.
Another confusing part of the NAFDAC statement is that they are testing samples.
Yes.
If something has been banned, it should not even be available in the market at all.
Well, they're trying to rectify the situation.
We are now testing samples and spice. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
If they say they banned it for years, it should not even be available in our shelves at all in the supermarket.
Well,
for them to say they want to do random sampling, the story is confusing. I'm sorry.
Well, they said they're trying everything they can to combat smuggling, because it turns out that would insinuate that the ones that are in the market was brought in, illegally, because they say they also have to combat smuggling. That's what they're talking about.
The one that is available in all of the shops everywhere.
I mean, that's how I can interpret that.
Difficult to see.
Well,
the availability of Indomie noodles. It's probably even the dominant noodles in the market now. If you agree with me, say.
Yeah, of course. I mean, they refer to other brand of noodles as Indomie. That's how famous the noodle.
No. They mentioned Indomie. They said noodles generally.
No, Fuad,
you understand?
I'm agreeing with you that it is a very popular brand, to the point where every other brand of noodles is even called Indomie. That's what I'm telling you.
And it's available everywhere. It's available in all shelves and supermarkets. I don't think it's such a scarce product. And if they say they banned it for years, one would think that we should not even find it in our shelves again.
Well, let's check page 4 of the Vanguard newspaper for more information. Moving on, let's talk about the very hectic situation of the roads at this time. Gridlock. Lagos approves e-collop system for Lekki Deep Sea Port. Lagos State government over the weekend approved the deployment of an e-collop system for the deep sea port in Lekki-Ekpe Free Trade Zone of the state. The State Commissioner for Transportation, Dr. Frederick Oladendi, said this at a stakeholders meeting, which had in attendance the top government functionaries from the Ministry of Transportation, representatives of Lekki Worldwide Investment Limited. He explains that the government plan, it will be the application of a collop system that would synchronize the movement of the trucks assessing the Lekki Deep Sea Port and other industries within the corridor, starting from Eleko Junction to Lekki Free Trade Zone. So apparently what they're going to do is try to control the presence of heavy trucks on the roads as a means to somewhat minimize the traffic. I know that the rains are here. Construction will definitely slow down on the roads. I mean, part of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway was actually submerged because of the rain yesterday. So there's not much that can be done about that part. But Lagos is trying to use some sort of e-collop system to control how many trucks are on the road at a particular time. So, but probably at a certain, there'll be some sort of schedule where maybe 5 trucks will be allowed to plow that particular route at a certain time. And that is, like I said before, their attempts to minimize the gridlock that has been happening in Lagos. Would you say laudable position that Lagos State government has decided to take?
You see, that's just a temporary solution. You see, before all of these projects on the Lekki-Ekpe axis, in the Lekki area, the free trade zone, the deep sea port, Dangote refinery, and all of that, we already knew that there are going to be problems with heavy-duty vehicles going into those facilities. In fact, there's a plan already on how to avoid a repeat of what we have in Apapa now. It's already in the plan. There's a plan for all of those facilities. And one of the plans in the government books that is supposed to be implemented immediately is the coastal road. There's supposed to be a coastal road that would create alternative access to those facilities. Because if you have within a single cluster stage a deep sea port, a free trade zone, a refinery, all within a cluster, if we are not careful and if we don't implement all of the plans initially laid out, we are going to have something far, far worse than what we have in Apapa now. And that's why it's important that, one, the coastal road is a very important project that the government must quickly look into and complete. The second one is also to create a rail access to that area. We don't have to have trucks fly the road. Most of those containers can be put on a rail system, a dedicated rail system that takes everything out of that place without having trucks, running into that area. Because if we are not careful, again, we are going to have a completely bad situation that is far, far worse than what we are facing in Apapa now. So it's not just to say e-column. That was what they were talking about when they talked about e-column for Apapa, and that has already solved any problem. Wow. E-column is just a temporary solution. The permanent solution is to ensure that there are enough alternative roads, the coastal road is fixed, and then we have a rail system that takes care of all of these trucks and containers leaving that area. Well, there used to be a rail track running to Apapa.
Right.
It was just abandoned and damaged. So we can have a rail track dedicated to all of these containers and all of those things, and then also have the coastal road fixed. That's the permanent solution. Or else, we are in for serious trouble on that area again.
Right, especially with the rain. I mean, the situation was really horrible yesterday. I had friends who got in at 12 a.m. There are people who got in at 1 a.m., especially those who were heading to the island. It was a really, really horrible situation. And I don't think that this is something that's going to end in a matter of days, maybe even weeks. Again, especially because of the heavy downpour. So I think that we need to look at more sustainable and durable plans. A temporary fix might help in a way. I mean, we can't say that it's such a bad idea. But then again, I think that we should, be long term in our plans and in our thinking. So I do agree with you 100%. But you can check page 4 if you want more details into that story. You're still listening to Trends in the Papers on Mainland 98.3 FM. My name is Sage Babalola. Virtually, I do have Fuad Said, and together we've been analyzing the stories that made it to the front page of the paper. You can definitely go on social media. That's for those of you who don't have access to your radio and you want to participate. Go on social media. We're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube, Mainland 98.3 FM. That is the dial. Go on there. And then it's time to take contributions. We will be at 8:30. We'll open the phone lines for 8:40. I beg your pardon. We'll open the phone lines for you. So moving forward, there's this headline here. Troops rescue pregnant Chibok school girl. So apparently they've been able to rescue one of the girls who were abducted. Pregnant Chibok school girl, just one. Yeah, is one.
Oh, okay.
Yes, one. So she's been rescued. At least that's what Vanguard is reporting. I think I saw another report of another girl who was rescued with her baby. But this Vanguard is reporting the rescue of one Chibok girl 9 years after. Should we say that they're making progress? Because you remember we celebrated, well, it's not a celebration, but there was some sort of, review of the Chibok girl situation just, I think, early last month, where we, the 9th year anniversary of the abduction. And well, they're still releasing this student. So should we say that it's a good thing to know that the government has not relented in their efforts to find and rescue these girls?
I'm sure, again, we don't have the complete details of how this girl was found. But I doubt if it was a deliberate rescue attempt. I'm sure maybe she was just found somewhere in the bush, maybe loitering around or something. I doubt if there was a deliberate mission, to get her. Probably she was just found by a villager or maybe by soldiers in the bush or something. We need to know the complete details, because I doubt if there's any deliberate or intentional effort by the government to rescue the remaining girls. Again, we've lost too much time on this particular issue 9 years after. What else are you expecting to get of these girls? In fact, for those that are even coming out now, we'll still need to do a lot of psychoanalysis of these girls. Because a lot of them have been married out to some of these criminals and, terrorists. So what is their orientation now? Some of them are already mothers for these bandits and terrorists. And so for them to even integrate them into the society would require a lot of, psychoanalysis and, a lot of work to get them to begin to think normally again. It's not easy to remain in the bush with these criminals for 9 years.
Right.
And then just think they're going to come into the society and act normal. So I don't think there's anything to celebrate, really. I think we should actually put our heads down in shame because we failed these students. These were ordinary students who were in school, kidnapped by terrorists, and 9 years we could not rescue all of them. So it calls for sober reflection, really, not anything to celebrate.
Well, with regards to what they've done about this security situation, in a related development, troops of Sector 3 MNJTF, Boko Haram members have been arrested, and they've also recovered weapons from them. So they did make a number of arrests. I think 19 suspected Boko Haram members were arrested, and then their weapons were also recovered. So it's not just, I don't know if that is an indication of maybe a sting operation was performed or nothing, but they reported that they've made a number of arrests. 19 of them were actually arrested.
But honestly, 9 years after Sage, I think we should reflect on this with some sober reflections. We call for sober reflection, I must say. 9 years after, if the lives of these girls will ever return to normal, get back to normal, I doubt it really, because a lot must have happened to them. Fortunately, a lot must have happened. A lot of them are carrying babies. Some of them, what will have happened to them in terms of physical assault and all of that. So, for as long as we continue to get some of them back, it will be worth it. But honestly, I don't think there's anything to celebrate about what we are achieving with the remaining Chibok girls. We should reflect on it with some level of sobriety, and then ensure that it does not happen again. Something like this does not happen again, really.
Right. Well, thank you very much for that, Fuad. Page 3 of the Vanguard newspaper is where you get more information regarding that story. So let's move on now. Police panel invites suspended Adamawa Rec over Guba poll. The investigation panel set up by the Inspector General of Police, Usman Baba, has invited the suspended resident electoral commissioner of Adamawa State, Hudu Yunusa Ari, for questioning. Recall that the panel invited Yunusa Ari over his conduct during the April 15 governorship election in Adamawa State. This is a developing story. You know that initially he wasn't invited by the police per se, although calls for his arrest were initiated. It was just the panel who invited him to come and answer some questions. But now the police are interested in this particular situation. Again, they're not calling that he be arrested. The police are also calling so that he can answer certain questions. Would you think that maybe that letter that he wrote detailing why he did what he did, and that he was under pressure and he was trying to salvage the situation, do you think that that is enough an explanation for what he has done? And do you think that he would show up for these invitations by relevant security bodies?
Well, the letter he wrote for me was just tales by moonlight. Really, nothing meaningful in that letter. And one would think that now that he has been invited by the police authority, he would make himself available and physically present himself to go and give that explanation to the police on why it was did on April 15. So there's enough time for him now to come out, and what he wrote in that letter is to well go and tell the police authorities why he did what he did at that time. But I would expect that if he doesn't show up now, I'll be waiting to see the police declare him wanted. Because, of course, the police will tell you that the first thing to do before you declare someone wanted is to invite them.
Yes.
So now that the police has invited him, if he doesn't show up, I'll be waiting to see the police and declare him wanted. But I will insist again that for me, there are enough grounds to prosecute the arrest in Adamawa State. There are already enough grounds. What he did was capable of setting the country on fire. What he did was almost going to break one of the National Commissioner's skills. The professor, for that matter, the man was still naked, based on what the red did. So in all of that, we're waiting to see what happens with that case. A lot of Nigerians who are desperate to see us at least use one or two persons as scapegoats will be waiting to see how we handle this matter, especially on the record of Adamawa State.
Right.
So again, he has been invited. We'll wait to see whether he will honor that invitation. And if he does not honor the invitation, we'll wait to see the police declare him wanted.
All right, you can get more details on page 3 of Vanguard newspaper. We're still on page 3. IP Spadin, OAGF suspends staff. Right after this, anti-graft agencies begin investigation. Now, the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, OAGF, has suspended a staff allegedly involved in the padding of the Integrated Personnel and Payroll Information System, IPIS. The director... Press and Public Relations in the office, Mr. Abawa Mokwa, disclosed this at a statement in Abuja. According to him, there is no immediate evidence of the infraction before the office yet, but the thorough investigation have begun. It has been launched to unearth the facts around the allegations, and the worker that was said to be complicit in this particular situation has also been suspended. If you remember, this is not the first time that this IPIS as a method of payment has been brought to the forefront. During the ASU strike, if you remember, the lecturer said that they don't trust this payment system. In a way, it should change the lecturer. You don't really get paid, by the amount of work that you have done. The money that, IPIS calculates how much work you've done and pay you based on the work you have done. That is what the system is supposed to do. But lecturers said that it's just changing them. They don't get enough money for the work that they've done. Well, it turns out that their allegation that there's IPPIS, there's a padding, right, where they just put salaries. Some have said that maybe it's ghost workers. You see their name there and a certain amount of money is allocated to them. Although, like I said, the director has said, we don't know about this, but we've heard what you have to say and we will investigate this. Are you shocked that a situation like this is going on with a system that was set up by the government as a means of payment for emoluments?
IPPIS, called IP, came up to, clean up our payment system. It's the payroll, the civil service payroll. That was what brought about this particular, payment system, which was thought to be more credible. And then, of course, would also fight the tendency for ghost workers or the padding of the payroll of the civil service. So, but to now have officials try to also manipulate the system is the problem here. IPPIS in itself was to come and resolve the problems of payroll padding, corruption in the payroll system, a proper an accountable process of paying our civil servants. That was what it was supposed to solve. For ASU, the problem was that ASU felt that they had their own peculiarities as workers, which they think the IPPIS was not going to take care of.
Yes.
That was the challenge. It wasn't as if they knew they had a problem with IPPIS. It was just that for lecturers working in the university, they thought that, look, there were things that the IPPIS did not capture, which was going to shortchange them as lecturers. And so they came up with their own UTAS, which was also a payment system, that was brought up by the university lecturers themselves, which was supposed to be like a domestic solution to paying lecturers in the university. So that was the issue. But the issue here in this report is that officials are trying to now tamper with IPPIS and finding a way to pad it again to accommodate all manner of illegal payments as far as payments of civil servants are concerned.
Yes.
Again, it's still under investigation. Officials, indicted have been suspended. But I think we need to still hold on to see what will come out of this investigation from the EFCC. But again, I'm shocked that, despite all of the efforts to bring IPPIS and the corruption-proof, things that have been told to us about IPPIS, there are still officials who are still trying to cut corners and do all manner of illegality. But we'll wait for the investigation before we can comment further on it.
Right. Page 3 of the Vanguard newspaper is where you will get this information. We are streaming live on Facebook and YouTube, like I said before. So go to our social media platforms, follow us. You can watch the show and you can drop your contributions on there. When it's time for us to take submissions, I will be more than excited to take your opinions on the matters as well. Trends in the papers is what's happening right now. Sage Babalola is my name, and I've been having a conversation with Fuad Said. So let's look at the last headline on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. Egypt open border for Nigerian students fleeing Sudan, says federal government. Riders to this adds stringent condition for evacuation. Bus conveying stranded Nigerians from Sudan catches fire. All Nigerian students evacuated from Khartoum, says association. Now, the Egyptian government has finally opened its border to Nigerian students fleeing the crisis in Sudan to be evacuated home. Vanguard newspaper learned that the conditions that was given by Egypt, if you remember, let me just give context to this for those who are not necessarily following the story. Abike Dabirero, I did have a conversation that the reason the students have not really landed in Nigeria, where there's some sort of a delay, is because Egypt had requested that certain documents be presented, including a visa. And there was a conversation about what happens to those who went to, who are in Sudan illegally. So so they've been able to resolve the visa situation, but Egypt gave certain conditions for the evacuation of the students, and that's why I'm trying to get through the conditions that Egypt gave. Now, Vanguard learned that the conditions include details of schedule of aircraft, capacity of aircraft, a strong pledge that once citizens depart the border, they will be conveyed directly to the designated airport. Others are a comprehensive list of the evacuees with passport numbers, valid travel documents, the presence of the Nigerian government officials at the points of embarkation, and standby buses that would immediately convey them to the airport. These are some of the conditions that were given. And if, again, one of the buses conveying the students caught fire, luckily there's no casualty being reported. At least we don't see that in the papers. So it's a good thing that they're finally, Egypt has granted them entry, but Egypt is saying that immediately they come into the country, evacuate them. Do you think they're trying to probably prevent a migrant situation where we have some Nigerians just fleeing into Egypt, setting up camps somewhere and refusing to leave the country? That's why they have such stringent conditions in place before they allow the entry of the students that are fleeing Sudan.
Yeah, it's not only Nigeria that is using Egypt
Yes.
to evacuate its nationals. Other countries are also using Egypt as it is. So there's that pressure. So I don't think we have to blame the Egyptian immigration authorities who are, trying to ensure that the proper things are done. Again, it's a very delicate situation out there. So Egypt has to be sure of who is coming in and how they are going to leave immediately. So the visa is not for people to come and be resident there or to come and become refugees there.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they are trying to prevent a situation where people now begin to set up camps and then they have a refugee problem in Egypt. So I wouldn't blame the Egyptian authority. And that's why they are saying that, look, maybe you come in, make sure you enlist all your nationals out. They are not here as refugees. This is just like a transit point for them to go back to their different countries. But I think we have to continue to urge the Nigerian authorities who are involved with this to ensure that all that is necessary is done to get these nationals back home. Yes.
Fuad, if you, further in the story, it actually says that all Nigerian students have been evacuated from Khartoum. So we're being told by this report in the Vanguard newspaper that all the students have been evacuated. They're just stranded at the Egypt border, a situation that Abike Dabiri has also told us that they've been able to resolve. So there are no students in Sudan, according to this report. It's just the controversy surrounding, them being at the border and how they would be airlifted. That's really the situation right now.
I'm sure the issue will be resolved. Like I said, we can't blame the Egyptian immigration authorities because, again, they don't want to have an immigration crisis or a refugee crisis in their hands. Because that's going to happen to people who are not able to go back to their different countries. They might decide to just begin to set up tents and camps in Egypt, and that might be a problem for them if they don't have the capacity to take care of them.
Right.
So, again, to the Nigerian authorities, I can only appeal to them to do all that is necessary to enlist, our nationals back home. Apart from students, what then happens to ordinary Nigerians who are trapped in Khartoum too? Because it's important for us to also talk about those ones who are not students. I'm sure there are people who are Nigerians who also live in Khartoum or who live in Sudan who do other things there. We need to also find a way to also get them out of that country.
Right.
And bring them back to the country.
Yes. All right. That's it for Vanguard newspaper. We're moving on now fast to the Nation newspaper. The major headline: pay rise coming for health workers, lecturers, others. Write us to this story: funding captured in this year's budget, says federal government. President-elect promises living wage. Now, other categories of federal workers, including health workers and lecturers, will soon enjoy a pay rise, just like their counterparts, the core civil servants who are on consolidated public service salary structure. Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, has said yesterday during the May Day rally that happened. That was yesterday. So the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress have asked for an extension of retirement age for civil servants from 60 to 65 years and 40 years of service. They also urged the federal government to expand and strengthen the existing social security framework. So we've heard about the whole pay rise controversy where civil servants are entitled to some sort of special payment, I think a 40% increase in their remunerations. And lecturers were exempted, doctors were exempted, and this caused the lecturers to, there was some sort of outcry as to why they were exempted. And Chris Ngige, the Minister for Labour, did say that it's because you're still negotiating your condition of service with the government. That is why you were not involved in the initial plan. But he's assuring them that they will definitely be added. But then again, let's talk about this particular retirement age situation. Workers, that civil servants or government workers, are asking that retirement age be increased from 60 to 65 years old, or instead of 30 years of service, it would be 40 years of service. Fuad, what do you think about this? Because this takes me back to the issue going on in France. You do know the situation with Macron and this the controversial pension bill as well, where he also wanted to increase the age, I think from 60 to 62, and it led to some sort of riot in France. So what do you think about this?
Those ones in France want to retire late. They
Yes.
want to retire
Early.
Our workers
Want to retire late? Yes.
So you can see the difference.
Yes.
The workers in France are like saying, "No, we just want to retire early. 60 is okay for us. Why do you want to push it forward?" But here you have workers who don't want to leave. They just want to retire later than the 60 years or 35 years in service that we have now. But again, I think I've lost all hope on the outgoing government to resolve any issue concerning the welfare of workers. Again, if in 8 years he's not been able to resolve anything, I don't think the next 20, 29, 30 days they will be able to do everything. So all of these requests by the labor unions, I think, would have to be to the incoming government to see what they're going to do about it. I agree that we should be talking about a living wage, not a minimum wage.
Yes.
But look, like we discussed yesterday on Trends in the Paper, no matter how much you pay the Nigerian workers, if we don't tackle our economic issues that sees inflation at double digits, at 21.something% at this time, nothing would come out of all the payments that we're going to be making to the workers. I think in the report yesterday, one of the workers said, look, when we were getting 18,000 naira minimum wage,
Yeah.
I lived a better life than now that we're getting 30,000 naira minimum wage.
Right.
Because again, the minimum wage that we have today, 30,000 naira, cannot even buy a bag of rice.
True.
So what does that tell you? So it's not, yes, I agree with increment of salaries because again, our economic reality somehow justified the need to pay for our workers yesterday. That's when it's really flat over your head. As a civil servant, no matter what you pay anybody now, there's no value to it.
Right.
As a welfare concern.
Right. All right. You can get more information on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. And now let's go to another headline here. Ngige counters Obaseki over no cash to pay salary claim. We do have this particular story on here. Labour Minister Chris Ngige has disagreed with Edo State Governor Godwin Obaseki over the latter's warning that the state and federal government may not be able to pay salaries beyond next month. But Ngige has dismissed the governor's warning as an alarm. He said Obaseki's statement, this is me reading verbatim, Obaseki's statement is not correct because payment of salaries and increases we're talking about have been budgeted for. The doctors have completed their negotiation under the auspices of the Nigerian Medical Association, and they have come to us and we have transmitted it to the authority concerned. We have done the same thing for the nurses and others in health. We have done the same thing for lecturers who went on strike for 8 months last year and other workers in the university system. So Godwin Obaseki of Edo State is saying that following the removal of fuel subsidy, it might be a very difficult situation for the government to keep up with payment of civil servants or workers in general, because we might suffer some sort of financial crisis that will make it difficult to make these payments. But Chris Ngige is saying that this is an incorrect notion that the governor is putting out there, that all of the monies that are being paid, all of the adjustments that are being made to the payment of certain workers have been it's in the budget, it's been provided for. So Godwin Obaseki should stop raising a false alarm. Do you understand the standpoint of Godwin Obaseki? Probably he's thinking of factors like our rising debt profile, the fact that we're borrowing more, or the fact that our budget deficit is about to widen, as to the backup for his notion that the federal government will not be able to continue the payment of the salaries of the civil servants.
Sage, we already are running on a budget deficit of over 11 trillion. And that should tell you something. And this is not the first time that we have seen the government borrow money to even pay salary. So we are running, on the stretch. In fact, we are on the cliff already in terms of our economic and financial standing as a country. So there's nothing alarming in what Governor Obaseki, the governor of the state, is talking about. But it's not just a federal government thing. stage. Because again, when we talk about the economic woes of Nigeria, we somehow, have the tendency to limit it to the federal government. Right. A lot of the state governments too have used their state to borrow manner of money to the extent that some of those monies are deducted as cost, and so they can't even pay salary. So it's a bigger problem than even thinking of the federal government alone. We are not in the right place financially as a country, and we need to address those issues. But like I've said several this morning, while reviewing the papers, I hope the incoming government, governors-elect, the president-elect, are actually following up on these issues. They know what they are coming in to come and, inherit, the financial burden, the economic mess that they are coming to inherit. So sometimes when I see people celebrating, feeling so pumped up and all of that, I'm like, really? Are these guys aware of the enormity of the problems they are coming to face when they take over May 29? So I'm not interested in the back and forth between the governor and the Minister of Labour. The Minister of Labour is someone I'm not really so happy with when it comes to the way he has handled the welfare of workers. So I'm not really going to bother with him. So I'm just hoping that the incoming government is taking stock, they are paying attention and listening to these things, and also already coming up with strategies on how to answer at least short-term solutions to when there's a permanent solution to our economic woes as a country.
All right, then. Page 5 of the Nation newspaper is where you get this information. Let's move on now. Strike notice by resident doctors absurd, says minister. And, of course, what minister we're talking about is still Chris Ngige Fuad. So you still have to talk about him for just one more minute. Yes. So Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, has berated the National Association of Resident Doctors, saying some of their demands were absurd. Over the weekend, he urged the federal government, the resident doctors urged the federal government to compel a member of the House of Representatives to withdraw the bill which would prohibit doctors trained in Nigeria from traveling until after 5 years. They are also asking for the implementation of a 40% pay rise for civil servants. And also, they're talking about the fact that some unions want to be paid for the period they were on strike. So this is just some of the demands of the doctors, and the minister feels like these are very absurd demands. First things first, the government cannot ask an individual sponsored bill, so to speak. They cannot ask that the bill be withdrawn. It's not a federal government initiative. Secondly, initially in the papers we reviewed, they've said they're talking about the pay for lecturers and the doctors, but since the doctors are also still in negotiations about certain issues, they cannot be included at this particular time. And also with regards to payment of monies during the period of strike, if you remember, even when ASU called off their strike, they were paid pro rata. They were paid for the amount of days that they worked. So the doctors are saying that that's not how it's going to work. The fact that we're on strike, that no work, no pay policy has nothing to do with us. Do you really think that these demands are absurd, or is well within their rights to make demands like this one?
According to Chris, again, these are absurd demands.
That's what I said.
But to me, they are not absurd. Again, we have not done enough for our workers in terms of their welfare. That's just the reality. We have not done enough. And that's why you see a lot of people running out of the country as if we are in a war situation. Why do you think everybody is running out? Our best hands are living in droves. Doctors are leaving. Teachers are leaving. Nurses are leaving. The IT sector is having serious issues now because our best hands are also leaving. So, you see, the reality is that we cannot continue to live in denial. We need to do more to make people stay back and feel that, yes, they need to be part of this country. And you see, the only, honestly, my opinion to this particular story is this: the incoming president should please, I don't know whether to kneel down or to raise my hands to beg, that whoever is going to be chosen as the Minister for Labour should be somebody with good and sound mind when it comes to emotional intelligence. Somebody that would understand that the position of the Minister of Labour is not necessarily to want to defend the position of government, but to listen to the yearnings and requests of workers and bring it to the table for government to resolve. Not somebody that has been so defensive of the government and fail to listen to the cries, pains, and yearnings of workers. The Minister of Labour should be somebody the workers are happy to relate with. They are happy to their issues too. They are so comfortable to cry to and seek for help. Not somebody that they sit down on the table with him and they are apprehensive about what he's going to talk to them about. So we need it. That's why I'm saying that whoever is going to be chosen, it doesn't have to be a politician. And that's the problem. We keep appointing politicians, people who don't understand these things in a position because they are members of the party or they contributed to the victory of the president-elect.
Right.
It has to be somebody that understands labor issues and is committed to resolving them.
Right.
That is the minister we should have.
Fuad, we actually have to go. Hopefully for Mainland Focus, we're able to expound on this situation. Well, for the other papers, we've actually addressed basically all the stories that are reported in the other papers, but let's just run through the headlines. Tinubu promises tough decisions. NLC demands new retirement age. This is me reading from The Punch, by the way. Anard fumes, as in Ngige condemns doctors' entitlement mentality. We just spoke about that. Police, DSS, INEC joint panel invites suspended Adamawa Rec. Salary payment unlikely after June, says Obaseki. Sudan opens border to stranded Nigerians. Lawless naval ratings brutalize Oguman. Senate presidency, Akpabio meets Buhari, defends admission. That is the stories on the front page of The Punch. And for Guardian, workers demand better pay. WHO issues alert as high-risk season for meningitis and others set in. NAFDAC begins probe on safety of Indomie noodles today. So those are the headlines reported by Punch and the Vanguard. Fawad, thank you so much for your analysis. We're going to go on a quick recess now. 10 minutes later, we will be back for Mainland Focus, where we present certain stories to you and then we get you to speak on these stories. My name is Sage Babalola. We'll be back by 8:40 for Mainland Focus. Don't go anywhere.